Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel that is Science Unlocked, and in today's session we will going to discuss about the class 6th science NCERT textbook topic that talks about the processes or ways for separation of substances. So first of all the question comes that why do we exactly need to separate the substances? So the reason behind that is most of the time it happens that the thing that we require or we desire is going to get mixed up with something we do not require. For example, let us say some sort of impurities in terms of husk, in terms of the stones that we see in case of rice, and on the other hand, like if we talk about the tea that we generally drink in our houses, over there we just want to have the liquid and not the tea leaves, so we want to filter it out. So one such kind of process or like separation process is done so that we can utilize the components which are mixed together on the basis of their needs. Means what exactly we want out of the combination, we can separate that out. And even if it is like this, that we want a combination of processes involved over the separation technique so that we can separate out the two components or whichever amount of components are added all together, that can also be done all together. So let's get started with the different processes that we have to learn about. The first one that we are looking into is the concept of handpicking, where the major aspect that we need to keep in mind is the difference in the appearances of the impurity and the desired component. For example, if we talk about the separation of stones and husk from the grains, different set of grains that we use in our houses. So over here we will find that, as you can see in this particular picture, that it has to be bigger in size, the impurity has to be bigger in size so that it can be seen easily, it is visible easily with our naked eyes. On the other hand, it has to have a contrasting appearance from the component that we require. Now this way what we can do is we can simply separate the two components which we have in our mixture, and those has to be like this, that one has to be bigger in size and the other one has to be smaller in size. Now there is one disadvantage connected with this thing, that is it is a very time consuming process and we can only separate the components which are going to be bigger in size, or maybe there is a difference between the size of two components, means the desirable and the undesirable component. So over here we cannot separate the two things which have almost similar sizes, so there this particular process cannot be used. So this acts as a disadvantage of this process. The next process that we have to deal with is the process that is called threshing, which is most of the time observed with separation of grains from the stalks of grains. And over here the stalks of grains are going to be sun dried first and they will be then beaten onto a hard surface so that the dried grains will going to get separated from the stems or the stalks of the grain. And nowadays we will see that this particular process is being done with the help of bullocks and machines. So on the whole this process has become less tedious and gradually we are reducing the labor related with this process. So this is one of the most important factor and one important process used nowadays by the farmers for separation of components. Next we have is the winnowing process, where we are going to separate the two components on the basis of the difference in their weight. Over here the two things which are mixed together has to have difference in their weight. One has to be lighter and the other one has to be heavier, and in this we will going to use some sort of way, some sort of source of air through which we will going to separate the lighter component with the direction of air. Means over here, as in the picture, we can see that if this is the direction of the air, so the lighter particle out of the two, that is seed and husk, so husk will going to come out in the rightward direction. On the other hand, the seed that is falling here will going to will going to be used separately. So over here we will see that on the whole a combination of things are to be done and it will going to get us into the result, that is separation of the lighter and the heavier component of the mixture. Next process that we have is the process of sieving. Now over here we will going to use a sieve with holes into it, because of which we will be able to separate the two components having difference in their sizes. Now over here there is one advantage, that even if the difference is going to be less, means the difference in the size is less, still it can be separated, because the one which is going to have smaller size will going to be sieved out, will going to be filtered out of the sieve, and ultimately it will going to provide us the cleaner component. And the best example that we can think of for this process is the filtration of tea that we use in our day-to-day life, and on the other hand the cleaning of flour that we use for making chapatis and doughs. So these are all different ways with which we can actually separate the two components, depending on that what exactly are the desired and the undesired components, and what are the properties of those components that we can utilize. So this is the end of the session. Rest we will going to continue in our next session. Till then, take care and keep learning.